Oof. All right, looks like we're live, boys. All right, let's see. Copy video link, and then all right, let's see what we get. Crash only software, cursive micro reboots, a diff that understands syntax. That's kind of cool. Integers. Oh, that's kind of cool too. Using exception, abusing exceptions for code execution. Okay, this looks actually kind of interesting. Has execute malicious code to avoid static detection. Focus on placing arbitrary code into executable memory. Interesting. One common pattern is that they always had a heavy focus in placing arbitrary shellcode in executable regions of memory. ROP is a common technique seen in memory corruption exploits when an attacker searches for snippets of code inside a binary. Ah, okay, I see. So they look into a binary, look for like some obfuscated code pattern to match a known piece of code, and then just inject their stuff in there. All right, cool. Hey Justin, what's up? Although typically used for memory corruption exploits, there has been limited use in environments where attackers already have code execution. That allows cheaters to abuse our... Oh, okay. Alright, so it's like video game exploits use this too. Alright, cool. Is that the instruction set of potential gadgets can be extremely limited and thus challenging to port complex shellcode to? Yes. Attacker and ROP is an inefficient method for performing arbitrary operations at runtime. Assume you're given... Okay, so assume you're given these, like... What's it called? Instructions, ROP, abuse, add, instruction to perform a return. Okay, so it's just injecting some kind of machine code or what's called assembly language stuff. All right, I get it. Exception-oriented programming is the theory of chaining together instructions present in legitimate code and stepping over these instructions one by one using a single-step execution to simulate execution of arbitrary shellcode. So this is basically the equivalent of running a Go-to, but just with a using binary to do so. Interesting. I don't know. This is starting to get a little bit complicated to me. It's definitely someone who's more well versed in these things should probably read it. But this definitely looks very interesting. I would have no idea how to execute on this though. So if anyone actually knows how to understand like being able to inject machine binary code into this, please let me know because I can't read Greek. Oh, internal tech emails. The Facebook phenomena is a problem. Hold up. Having talked to a number... Okay, this is from Sergey Brin. The Facebook phenomena is a problem. Having talked to a number of people now, I feel that we are even more at risk retention-wise than I had previously imagined. Rainy weather, a few GPS misalignments here and there, and a few noted departure retirements already set the stage for employees to be unhappy. The Facebook phenomenon creates a real retention problem, I now realize, not just because Facebook's direct hiring, but the more insidious effect that everyone wants to start the next Facebook or get rich by having a popular Facebook app. Whether Facebook itself does well or not is hard to predict, but it is clear to me that there is a social network bubble of imitations and tag-alongs. Very smart, yes. This is very much like what we saw like 7 years later. Finally, we have not done a good enough job of high rewards for performance. Interesting. This document is from the high-tech employee antitrust litigation. Interesting. Was this just revealed in what's it called? the antitrust lawsuits. This is interesting, actually. So this was like a phenomenon 10 years ago, and it was actually well known. So I'm guessing that ZerpTech, like with Uber, Airbnb, and everything else, is just kind of like following the same pattern. So I'm very curious. Anyway. Let's kind of see what the message threads say. I'm kind of curious to see what the people say. Before Facebook in the picture, Google, Apple, and other big techs colluded to artificially keep pay low. Even every dev with massive total compensation needs to thank Facebook every day for refusing to become of the cabal. Yo, what is this? Hiring conspiracy? Wow. Hatched plans to avoid poaching each other's prized engineers. Alright. Avoid a salary war. Okay. In one exchange after Google recruiter solicited an Apple employee, Schmidt told Jobs that the recruiter would be fired. Wow. Wow. Holy shit. I did not realize this was part of Silicon Valley history. Another exchange showed Google's human resource director asking Schmidt about sharing and its no cold call agreements with its competitors. Holy shit. Okay. So this is like way back when engineers and companies would not poach each other's engineers. Holy fuck. Wow. Man. All right. This is actually really interesting. I had no idea this is from 2014. Wow. This was not that long ago. 8 years ago. I started like 2 years after this. Well, what do you know? You learn something new every single day. Okay. I mean, I guess this is like kind of where the whole culture of, maximize TC comes from. I guess it's like a backlash to this. Okay, anyway. That's enough interesting reading. Let's go ahead and bring my client on. Let's see what's up. Hello? Hang on, you're a little bit quiet on, man. Give me a sec. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, what's up?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing alright.
Nice. I'm a bit tired as well. Yeah.
Wait,
Anyway.
you're a little bit quiet on, man. Give me a sec. I think I messed up.
I think 1, 2.
Yeah.
Is it good?
No. It's my fault. Alright, try again.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay, cool.
Testing 1, 2.
We got it. Yeah. So you say you're a little tired. Catch me up on everything. I know we're doing like this one last push to try and make it for Microsoft. This tomorrow or is it 3:30 or 3:31?
Tomorrow.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
30. It's actually today in my country.
Oh shit, yeah, it's past midnight, so we really don't have too much time. And there's not too many adjustments that we can make. But I kind of want to talk a little bit about like all the preparation that you've done for the past 5 days. Like, catch me up on everything.
Well, actually, there's like good news. Like a friend of my friend that eventually is from the same class as mine. He like managed to do the same interview as I would do tomorrow, right? But he did today and just received the answer. Just one point. His main struggle was to communicate his idea. So behavioral questions were like just a nightmare for him. He managed to pass. Anyways, and he's for the same position as mine.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's good news. And yeah, like updating about my practice. Yeah, like on Saturday, after our call, I did few more like lead code questions, tagged for Microsoft,
Hmm.
and one mock interview with a friend. And like Sunday during the entire, I woke up a little bit late, but during the entire afternoon and the evening, I did lead code, like tagged Microsoft questions. I managed to do like 7 or 8, I think,
Hmm.
plus the mock interview, right? And actually, those tagged questions were mainly like I've been focused on, yeah, on them.
Hmm.
And my friend, like the feedback from my friend, like he's actually an engineer at Amazon. He said that only few points that were my mistakes. I just need to read here. I don't remember.
Hmm.
But like mostly, he even said like the way you've been practicing, the way you've been like tackling those questions is like better than when I was practicing actually.
Hmm.
But even that, I asked him, man, would you solve the question like would you approach the question the same way I did, like like the same thing you said to me, like to try to get his nuances and instincts.
Hmm.
So this is what I've been trying to do. And yeah, and for the behavioral portion, I spent yesterday and today because I realized that were some concepts
Hmm.
to so I can brush up.
Okay.
And he shared with me like his spreadsheet of like behavioral questions.
Got it.
And I double checked, just one more thing, I double checked on lead code from past interviews, and basically was like the same questions. And even the interview from today, from the other guy, was basically the same questions. They asked threads and process and like most of behavioral questions. No coding today.
Okay.
Anyways,
Okay. Don't
that's
get
it.
too excited. You never know if someone else is gonna say, "Hey, well, I'm gonna
For
switch gears
sure.
on you." But you're right. Today we want to focus a little bit on behavioral. I realize we haven't done too much of that, and like with basically less than 12 or 24 hours before it, there's not too much I can do about this. But what I can do is give you like a few points to really focus in on. So look, you see on my video on
Great.
behavioral interviews, I assume that you
I
crafted
watched.
some of these answers based on that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What the
Not
thing?
trying to be cool
Mhm.
and trying to like show my results in the most effective way.
Mhm.
I took notes of this actually to make my like to give the emphasis in my answers based on what you pointed out.
So one of the exercises I really like doing is like really, you should be able to state it like three different versions of your story. There's like the 10-second version, the 1 minute version, and the 3 minute version, or something along those lines, right? If let's say you
Mm.
walk into the elevator and Bill Gates is standing there and he asks, "Hey, who are
Oh,
you?" Like imagine that, Bill Gates gets off in 10-15 seconds, to the like the 15th floor or something, and you have 10-15 seconds to introduce yourself and make yourself interesting, or each one of these questions. That should be like the quote unquote elevator pitch.
elevator
However,
pitch. Yeah,
you need to be able to do that for any given question that you're given and any given story,
great.
because every single story that you give is okay. Let me rewind because I think I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself. The point of these interview questions is to basically understand what type of professional you are and how much responsibility we can give you. That's it. Everything
Mhm.
else just spawns from that one idea. And so every single story you give should emphasize some memorable quality from you. Because I'm going to tell you, at the end of these interviews, at the end of it, we're going to forget 90% of the answers that you give us. Unless we've written it down, even
Right.
then we might not even remember. What we do want to remember
Mhm.
is like 1 or 2 points about you that make us go, "Oh shit, this guy is really good. We want this guy." So
Right. All
this
right.
can
Gotcha.
maybe be one memorable story, or or a few memorable points. I personally like to think about things in like memorable points. So for instance, like, oh, this guy took on a very interesting project and he was able to solve it because he prioritized XYZ. That's not something we usually see. That's going to stick in my mind, right?
Yep.
It's something that is going to like, and so the point of each one of these stories is to hit them with that moral. Maybe they'll seen something similar, like, yeah, I've seen it before, or something like, oh, that's interesting. It's being able to reduce
Mm.
every single one of your stories to one point, one singular moral, and being able to massage that to whatever behavioral question that you have. And I'm going to tell you, it's a lot easier than memorizing 10,000 different questions and 10,000 different answers. More often than not, 5 to 7 stories that you remember are interesting and associating one
Mhm.
moral principle to it that's going to be more than enough.
Good.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. So each one of
Yeah.
these stories, you want to be able to deliver like the 30-second version, the short version, the medium version, and the long version. It's kind of like the same way you want to talk about solving LeetCode problems, except you're telling a story about the situations you're in, right, with your professional experience. So that's what I really want to focus on. So let's start with the tell me about yourself. This is gonna always be, no matter what question you're on, you're always going to have this, right? So
Yep.
let's do that exercise right now. So I'm gonna start the timer. 3.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Can I do like, of course, like following this thing, the thing you said, like elevator pitch, like a medium version and a more long version,
Okay.
right?
Right. But the first
Is that
question
what you
first
want?
is always going to be tell me about yourself. You want to give the short version of the 30-second, like the 10 to 30-second version, okay?
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
we're going to go through, so the plan for today, go through each one of these questions, and I'm going to basically tell you, hey, this is what you want to hit, this is not what you want to hit. Just like very briefly. And then maybe we can reorganize a little bit of the stories to make it a little bit easier for you to talk about them and kind of rehearse them.
All right.
But beyond that, I'm going to say there's not much else I can do. I can't really change out your stories. I might be able to tweak them a little bit, but I can't, completely replace them. I mean, it's unfortunate that we're a little bit short on time, but we work with what we got, right?
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm going to start the timer. Give me a second. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. So tell me about yourself.
Okay. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. I study information system at University of São Paulo in the senior year, which is the last. And I actually I'm a full-time software engineer at a company in which in a company focused on backend APIs, right?
That's 30 seconds already.
And okay, yeah, the 30-second version. All right,
30-second version. That's what I'm saying. I want the 30-second version before we move on.
I will
the
try
next.
again.
All right.
I'll try
Try it
again.
again.
I'll try again.
30-second version.
All right.
Make sure. Do you need a little bit of time to like understand what points you want to hit?
Okay, I think I got it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go again.
Okay.
Tell me about yourself.
I'm a senior. Okay. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. I'm studying information systems at my senior year. I'm actually a current full-time software engineer, right, in a consulting company, and I have 3 experiences in my belt. One being at Carnegie Mellon University, and I actually worked at Business Intelligence as well. Basically, that's it.
I'm gonna say we can talk about your experience, but I want you to hit me with that moral. So let me actually do this because I don't think you're kind of getting it. Let me give you an example of myself. So let me do 30 seconds, right? Hi, my name is Edward. I'm a senior software engineer at Uber. Prior to that, I worked at Apple. I have 10 years of mobile experience under my belt, and I've solely been focused on Android. I have worked on every single part of the Android tech stack, ranging from surface level UI products all the way down to infrastructure. My most recent work has been in working with build systems, upgrading our entire 3 million line code base from one build system Buck to Bazel. That's 30 seconds right there. I told you my work experience, I told you a number of years, I told you basically the previous companies that are noteworthy that I worked on, and I've told you the extent of my experience and why you should care about me.
Okay, I'll try to emphasize this. Yeah.
In fact, let me give you another version. This is probably what I would have said based on like my experience, like when I was first applying to Apple. All right, so let me start again. 3, 2, 1, go. Tell me about yourself. Hi, my name's Edward. I'm a senior at UCSD. I am currently on my 5th year where I'm studying electrical engineering and computer science. I also work at a startup where we create apps for clients. For people who have ideas. We take these ideas, we enter business meetings with them, we plan timelines and triage the possible milestones, and then we create the apps for them. I am currently working on the mobile side of things on Android, and I collaborate with 2 other engineers in order to create these products. I mean, that's off the top of my head. I mean, I could refine it a little bit more, saying I had like years of experience, but you kind of understood the extent of my experience. Like I talked about, in that case, I talked about like not my necessarily university work. I talked about my job experience because I think that's what's going to set me apart. I can also
Yeah.
talk about, I interviewed with the CIA before. I have a patent, both of which are true for the
Yeah,
record.
yeah.
But that's just off top of my dome. I want these things hard, like boom, boom, boom. This guy's interesting because X, Y, Z. Now,
So, okay.
can you do that?
So, like, yeah, okay. Basically, I will try to show that I can deliver results. Like I have 3 past experiences, and I worked with Java and Spring Framework, and I create like different APIs in the past internships I had, in my actual work. Basically showing this experience.
Java is not interesting to me. You know why?
Yeah, because it's just a mean to an end.
Correct.
Yeah.
I want to know the projects you're working on, or like the type of projects you tend to work on. Like, notice I didn't say like what apps I worked on. I just said I'm an Android developer. I work with these people, and I kind of went on that tangent about triaging just to show I have some level of ownership. But the point there was really to show them that I have real world experience, and I am focused on this one area, right, with mobile apps. For you, let me try it with you. So I see that Spring Framework, blah blah blah, e-commerce, second business analyst, SQL data analytics. So yours would be you've worked on data analytics, you've worked on back-end systems, and you've worked with Unity, but I'm trying to get a singular focus.
I'm trying.
So it seems like you work with a little bit more e-commerce and almost like fintech stuff.
Basically, that's it. But in the part that was like web development was backend systems. Yeah.
So you could say you work on backend and data analytics or data science for financial tech firms. You have 2 years of experience while going to school.
Good.
And then you can add and so I think that's going to be your selling point. And then you can add 1 or 2 more details on top of that make it you work in fintech, but then what gives it that oomph? I'm gonna let you have creative freedom with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can try.
Off the dome. Focus on that. You're a fintech. You're a engineer with 2 years of experience or however many years of experience. You're a senior. You're a senior at your university. You've worked on backend system and data science. And that's your first 15 seconds. Last 15 seconds off the dome. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Now. Tell me about yourself.
I'm a senior in information systems, and I've worked with data analytics and backend systems, right, where I used a lot of SQL and stuff. And now I'm currently as a full-time software engineer at a company where I create different APIs for different uses in a team. Yeah, in a team.
APIs
and working.
This is a little bit weak.
Like where I contribute for backend systems in a team. I'm trying to put emphasis on the second half, like to show that I can cooperate in a group.
Okay, I see. I'm gonna say let's do this. You've mostly worked in the fintech area, and you work on. You work on mostly front end or back end stuff, or a mix of both.
Backend. From the first experience was most backend.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And at Carnegie Mellon was most backend as well, like nothing else.
So you want to call yourself a backend engineer, backend fintech engineer, specialized. And what is the interesting part about your work? Now, other than everyone works in a team. What's the interesting part? Why should I care that you're a backend engineer?
Because I can have a view. Just a minute. I need to think about it. What I am interested in. Because I can understand what people needs and create software solutions to solve their problems.
That's not an answer.
I don't know.
It's not meant. It's not an oomph. Everyone does that.
I can analyze. Okay. Okay, and how to say this? Like, I can work by myself. Like, I can try my best, without.
I don't want something soft. I want something hard. Something that says, "Hey, yeah, this guy's fucking special." Anyone can work on a team. Anyone should be able to, like, if I give you a task, you should be able to handle it yourself.
Uh, okay, I can deliver results under time pressure. I
Okay,
think
that's a little bit better.
that's one quality. Yeah, and I had this experience before, so yeah. Anyways.
That's a little bit better. But I would say maybe looking at this, you have e-commerce on the first one, you have stock and investing analysis on the second one, and tutorial maker on the third one. I would say look at the common ones. Did you work with like real-time APIs or mostly just business metrics or like business data?
Was real-time APIs and like business metrics, both of them at the finance company.
So you can say that you're a backend engineer with an expertise in fintech and business, where you translated, let's say, like I'll just describe this, like business and financial metrics into actionable engineering projects. That's
Okay, I'm
interesting
like
because you actually, it's like if I asked you, do you understand a lot of these business stuff? And if you told me like, oh, you understand like revenue, gross revenue, profit margins, all that stuff, I think that's literally
yeah.
So
Okay, so like just for me to train, like I'm a backend engineer with experience like in fintech and e-commerce, right? And I can translate like business data into like real world software projects like this.
yeah, something like that, like business financial data and metrics into real world projects. I think that's very interesting because a lot of people just write code, right? Not a lot of people
Yeah,
can
yeah.
understand like a balance sheet or what goes on in a company and actually understand that and tie it to engineering. I think that makes someone special.
Okay, business and I'm just taking notes here.
Yeah.
Business and e-commerce and
I leave that to you how you want to say that, but I think that is your main selling point. You can always talk about the Carnegie Mellon stuff, but I
yeah.
think this is more interesting because then the next logical question is like, oh, okay, well, I also am into finance. Can you tell me what gross margins are? You know?
Yeah.
But that's
The
up to
data.
you. If that's like, and tell me if like I'm just putting words in your fucking mouth. But the point here is to give you some oomph, right?
Yeah, like so I can stand out, right?
Exactly.
Real world projects. Yep.
And so the next logical question
Okay.
would be the what's it called? The next logical question would be just okay. Well, tell me a little bit. Tell me like one of those projects. Talk to me about it, and then you could talk about being a business analyst where you worked on stock and investing analysis. And you would say, oh, you worked on e-commerce as well. Okay, and that leads into natural question. That leads into these projects, right? And so you see how like literally giving them that food of like, oh, this is interesting. It allows you to basically keep going and feeding them like what you want to feed them. Now you're
Yeah,
the conversation by making it interesting, right?
I see.
Okay. So
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so let's go on to the next one since we're kind of a little bit short on time, and I know I want you to get a lot of good sleep. But I want you to try
that's
to
good.
at least, keep this in mind. So you say why Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at your answer here. Same college.
Yeah.
To be fair, this is kind of a hard one because there's no answer that no one has given before. It's like trying to come up with a unique answer for Microsoft. It's a little bit difficult.
Yeah. Like I try to tie my answers into their values, like into the experiences I heard from people that worked at Microsoft. Basically, that was it. My answer.
I'm gonna give you something different. I don't want. The reason why is like I don't. Company values are like I'm going to be perfectly honest. Most people do bullshit. Even Amazon people like they scout like the 12 leadership principles. But you think
Yeah,
those
the
names
12
on the spot,
leadership
they try to
principles.
fucking remember them. They just like
Oh hell.
they just read it like 5 minutes before the interview. Honestly.
Yeah. What do you
I would say
recommend,
this.
please?
Here's a different one. Do you know any interesting projects that you take a very good, genuine interest in from Microsoft?
From Microsoft. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Like there's a game for Microsoft called Flight Simulator, right? And the way that they created this game for me is like fantastic. I never seen before because they used real world data, to map the entire world with a bunch of interesting things that really shine up my eyes. Yeah.
I like that answer a lot more. It's a lot more genuine. Because what you can eventually say is like, I want to work at Microsoft because they've created a product that I've loved and has changed my life. Like the Flight Simulator, right? And when you dug into what Flight Simulator entailed, it was like all about analyzing real time world data and working with Unity. And you decided those were the areas you want to pursue, and you've shown that in like your work experience where you analyze fintech real-time data and you've worked with Unity. Do you see why that's a much more stronger narrative?
Oh yeah. Like I'm taking a product, right, and align with like what I've worked in the past.
Exactly. Like you say, hey, this product changed my life. It came from a fantastic company. I learned more about that product, and this led to my interest in computer science. And I'm not bullshitting you because literally everything I work on came from that one inspiration.
For sure. Yeah.
That's a much more genuine narrative. Because I mentioned this kind of before. Like it's all about painting that narrative. What kind of person am I working with? What kind of professional am I working with? And then you can also touch on like, also I like these other things that I've heard from other people, blah, blah, blah. But I still think 80% of the oomph should come from that one narrative. That's my opinion, at least. What do you think?
I think it's good. Like, but just one point here. My freshman year, like, I got very interesting, like the way the like their engineers were selling, like the way they work. I don't know, like that was something that catch me up. Like, do you think it's okay? But there's no much impact, right? Compared to like me seeing like how a game was created. Yeah. Anyways.
I think it's okay to mention that after. It's like, okay, so once I got interested in the product, I got interested in Microsoft, I got interested in, like using this to launch my interest in CS. I think that's perfectly reasonable as a result. So then you could then say, okay, well, I did all these projects because of my interest in Flight Simulator, and I want to know how it's made, and I want to do stuff similar to it. And then also I realized Microsoft is the best place for me to do it because not only did they create the product, I also got to talk to the engineers who, maybe didn't work on the project, but worked at the company, and their values align with mine. So you can see, like, you have all these different factors that are feeding into one another versus like, oh, I have A, B, C different factors that are separate from one another. You see, like, people, they're like I'm going back to my beginning point. People remember stories. They don't remember facts. They remember stories. So if your story is, I learned this one product, this product led to my interest in computer science, and I have all these experiences because of that, people are going to see the link and people are going to remember that more.
For sure.
So
you have the reason. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you have your reasons. That's a genuine answer. That's I've heard so many bullshit answers. I know when a bullshit answer hits me.
That's great to hear in some point.
So
okay, can I try the first one, like
the tell me about yourself or the why Microsoft?
The tell me about yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go. Let me start the timer. 3, 2, 1, go.
Right. I'm a senior at Information Systems, and I have 3 past internships under my belt.
Okay.
Mainly focused in business and financing and e-commerce. What I think it's very interesting is that I can translate real-world data into like interesting product or analysis to bring value to the company. So that's a little bit about myself.
Okay, that's a lot better than before. You had 3 internships, sure. I would say, I would try once you have to like get past the first internship. I honestly would start qualifying things in like years of experience more. That's the first thing.
Do you consider this? Yeah, I don't think so.
But yeah, that's me. And second, I instead of translating real world, I would say real world financial data and financial information, real world financial information, not just data, but information in general, into actual engineering projects.
Yeah, because like just to give a bit of context, I had to like analyze how the products were selling. So product A sell more than product B, so we need to give more attention to product A, basically, and analyze the tickets and all of those fancy terms that they use.
Yep. So that's what I'm saying. Like you can't just say real world data. Like what kind of real world data?
Financial.
You need to be able to hit those keywords, those key things like, oh, real world data, like I don't know, but real world financial information. Like okay, and you drove those projects. Like perfect. That's like now I remember it because otherwise up to this point what you just said was kind of vague. So I would say if there's one point that you would want to rehearse, is this one until you basically, say it in 30 seconds, da 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 da. You don't even have to think about it. It's making it obvious, but there's only so much time we have, but I still think that you're gonna get the most bang out of your buck if you had to focus on one thing.
No, we'll do. You give me the points. Yep. I was just going to train then.
It's gonna be very hard because, like I said, you only have like one night on this. But we'll do what we can, right?
One thing I will try to do is to use my lunchtime tomorrow, like because the interview is gonna be 2:15 on my time, and I go out from lunch to at like noon, so I still have a few time to practice.
Just say it out loud over and over and over again. I don't care if people think
Yeah.
around you you're crazy. You're just rehearsing. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Next one.
Anyways,
Microsoft. We covered that. Tell me about yourself. Microsoft. Okay. Your favorite Microsoft product and program. What did you improve upon that? I still think you can tie this back to Flight Simulator. Actually.
I tied to Flight Simulator because there was like one very improvement. For example, if the users wanted to like put a customizable plane or scenario, it was like a very complicated process because you have to put the folders and all that stuff. And what I would suggest is that I haven't played the 2020 version yet, but what I would suggest for the X version is to have a store where the users can like share their planes with their country brands, and yeah, all that stuff. Which in Flight Simulator you can find this. Yeah.
Okay, that's a perfect answer because again, like we have this narrative of Flight Simulator leading to computer science. So then now it's like, okay, well, how much do you really know about Flight Simulator? Perfect. You've used the product, you've shown that, and you can see where's improvement. I mean, there's not much else to say beyond that, to be honest. I would say maybe the one thing they might pick on is why do you think is like, well, why would users want it? But you've kind of already said it's really cool to have that social interaction with others. Like,
Yeah.
borrow your plane,
Yeah. And users like had to use third-party blogs to share their stuff. It was like a pain for people that don't know much about tech. Just want like a specific plane. But anyways.
Yeah, you can
that's
always if you need to extend the time instead of like giving a 30-second answer, which you just did perfectly, you can always qualify it by saying, okay, here's an example of this interaction going wrong, and here is how the community has gotten around that. I think that's a perfect qualifier because that shows that you are like really involved in all this stuff and that you truly have a passion and for actually understanding this whole ecosystem. I think that's a perfect.
Yeah. Great.
Next.
Great.
What do you do when you want to be a software engineer? I think this next question. That's a good one.
Just let me go there. Okay, I remember by like my mind. Since I was a kid, like I was very interested in science and computers, right? I grew up with them, and like problem solving, right, during all my teenage years. But I always have this. It's 30 seconds right now. Okay, let me go back. Okay, 30 seconds again. Just a moment.
Okay.
Why do you want to be a software engineer? Well, because since I was a kid, I was very interested in like science. I was fascinated about like science and computers. And during all my teenage years, it has been proved that I really enjoy like games and all that stuff. But I really enjoy like the part of how they were created, like the engineering part of them. And then when I turned out 18 years old, that was like the only thing that was in my mind, to do computer science, to create those my own innovations in like those systems.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this. Instead of trying to come up with a vague answer like this, just reuse your Flight Simulator.
Okay, so during my teenage years, I played a lot of Flight Simulator, and I was very interested in to see like how the mechanics of this game worked and they were created, and that gave me the click about programming.
Yeah,
I don't know
why? Because that is going to be the exact same answer that you give for why Microsoft. It's like, hey, I did Flight Simulator. I got really interested in the how this actually all works, and I decided that once I broke it down, I realized it's all about like analyzing real-time data and and physics engines and all that stuff, and that has led me to like in my own career, in the type of projects that I've pursued. You see, like, this is what I mean in the beginning. Like, you only need, like, have a few handful of stories that you can answer a bunch of different questions with. So, in effect, why do you want to be a software engineer and why Microsoft are answered by the exact same story. All you have to do is just add one or two more qualifiers to it. Like, oh, yeah, I play Flight Simulator and I analyzed Flight Simulator, and I really thought it was cool how computers could do this.
There's no difference. Yeah, like, just those additions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if someone asks you, hey, why do you want to be a software engineer? It's like, why Microsoft? It's like, literally, those are two answers. The same answer you give answers both those questions. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I'll train this as well. Everything you're saying, like, I'm gonna rehearse based on that.
At this point, it's not
Interesting.
about rehearsing. I would still say you rehearsed the first one, but this one I want you to get like an intuitive understanding. It's like what I'm saying right now should either click or it doesn't. If it doesn't click, don't sweat too much. If it clicks, then
Oh, it clicks because it's like very close to my experiences. So like, for example, if I were to give you this answer again, it's like, oh, I want to be a software engineer because like during all my teenage years, I've been playing Flight Simulator, and I got very interesting to see like how the mechanics work and how the physics were created for this game. And yeah, programming, like I saw that all that happened on the background was programming, and I got pretty interesting to be able to create my own stuff. And that's why like software engineer was like without a doubt the choice for me.
there you go. You know, like the best answers are always the genuine ones. I can't make
Yeah,
you
for
give
sure.
you. I can't give you a fucking like lie and tell you to run with it. It doesn't work. But if you, and
Sure.
it seems like because it's genuine and you genuinely do feel that way, then sure.
Uh-huh.
It seems like it's clicking with you. So just make sure that you can do that. All right. Next.
Oh, just one point here that I'd like to question.
Yes.
Like, of course, I have an accent, but can you understand perfectly what I'm saying while answering this question? Because sometimes I get this. Maybe the interview don't understand. I don't know.
I would say as long as you keep your sentences short and simple, you're fine. As long, I think
Good.
where things get a little bit complicated for you is when you start rambling, right? And I would
Rambling.
when you solve problems. So as long as you keep your sentences short and language very simple, no one's going to complain.
Okay.
You even notice, like right now, I'm doing it just out of sheer habit. I don't like saying really long sentences. I hate it because I realize at some point, beyond around like 15 words, you lose the person. So you'll even notice, like I instinctively just take like small breaks, just so I can let.
Yeah.
You notice, like I trained that vocal tick for myself because I realized that if I do that, then the person hangs on my word. It's a trick I learned from Neil deGrasse Tyson, hearing him speak. So if you hear him like speak, he'll do like those breathe in and out at times. And all I said was, okay, let me just do that because I talk a lot and I talk very fast. But if I can do that little breathe, it kills two birds with one stone. I can keep talking and you still are paying attention to me.
Good.
Notice how I just
I'll
talked
try.
for 1 minute.
Yeah, no, I perceive this. I perceive this. You talk like da 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 da. It's like that cadence. Yeah.
Yes, it's like
I see.
it's like only like for maybe 5 seconds at most at a time or something like that, 5 to 10 seconds, and
Yeah.
you still remember all the points I'm telling you, because
Sure.
I talk in very short phrases.
Yeah.
It's actually a really cool trick that I just like picked up, and again, people understand simple things.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep this in mind because actually English is not my native language, so it's a little bit of trouble to speak it. Anyways.
It doesn't need to be like super complex words or sentences. It just needs to be very simple. So
Okay.
you'd be very surprised how far just that one heuristic goes.
I'll keep this in mind as well.
Yep. So, next one. Tell me about a recent favorite project and some of the difficulties you faced.
Okay, 30-second version. Here we go. Well, like my very interesting project was like at Carnegie Mellon because like I had zero knowledge of what I would be working on, and I was able to gather all the informations and scope my project. And in the end, I created like a demo version that scale into like a real system that people would be able to create like real virtual reality tutorials, and it was pretty good like to see people using the thing I did. Basically, that was the interesting project.
Sure. And then after this point, I would probably ask. I would say for a question like this, the next logical question is to say why it was difficult. I mean, because like, oh yeah, I didn't know. You kind of addressed a little bit of it here. It's like I had no what's it called?
Knowledge.
Prior knowledge about it. Now, I would ask you to clarify, or maybe you can do it on your own, that it was different from your prior projects because this wasn't a familiar area to you. In the past, you were more familiar with like business data, but in this case, you were working on like some kind of Unity thing or something.
Yeah.
I think
Go
Go ahead.
ahead. No, yeah, actually, they did this at Amazon last year. Like I explained like a short version, and they asked, Okay, but can you like explain how was the process? You know, like to learn the tech and to deliver the result. Can you go more in deep? In
Yes.
deep. Yeah.
Yes. So you want to be what I want to do is I kind of just give you that got how to say that arc, that story arc where you have action, what, and the situation, and then result, right? So the action,
At the star method.
yeah, the star method. People call it star method. I just like action, situation, results because it's a little bit easier for me because one is the action that you took. The situation is what makes that action special. Like, why should I care? You know, It's different when a 2-year-old learns to ride a bicycle versus a 20-year-old. It's different. That's the situation, right? And then the result is that
Totally.
yeah, it's like the action you took, and then the situation is what makes it special. Is that secret sauce that makes like a plate of pad thai or something taste a little bit better, you know? And we want that little bit of
Okay.
spice. So the spice here is going to be you were previously only familiar with business information, like analyzing, data metrics, like the revenue numbers, the gross sales. But in this case,
Yeah.
this is a completely new piece of technology that you've never touched before or never worked with.
Okay.
That's the one. And so the
That's the
question then would be,
point.
okay, well then how do you learn a new tech stack that you have never done before? How can you be sure this is the right way to do things? Because the next logical question for me is like once you told me the story, I'd be like, okay, how did you do this? How did you learn? Would it then be, well, what would you do better next time?
Okay.
And then you also need to answer what are the difficulties you face. Because I think, for every single person, the difficulties of actually using a new code base or learning a new piece of technology are going to be different.
For sure.
So what I would like to hear from you is like answer that part of the question. Because now that you've told me like the preview of it, because this is essentially what it is, right? The preview to why it's difficult. I want to hear about like the specifics. So go ahead.
Okay. Um. Okay, but one thing is 30-second rant version, like just to create the arc. Okay. Is
Yeah, go ahead.
that correct?
I think
Okay.
you already have the arc technically. All I'm asking you to do is just like give me a list of difficulties that you got going with it.
Okay. The first difficulty was that this project was based on an old code base. So I had to kind of understand like others people code that I never touched before.
Yes.
And that was a piece of technology that I never worked before. So I had on the same time to learn a lot of things that were totally new for me. And the third one was because of the scope of the project was not so defined. So I had to discover this on the way. But after I solved those problems, and focused on like what was more important, and so I was able to like progress in the project and deliver results that the people were like wanting for me to bring. Yeah.
I might be a little bit more
Maybe.
atomic about that. I would say something along the
Atomic.
lines of yes, a legacy code base is difficult because I didn't know and I was working with a legacy code base that hadn't been updated
Legacy
in
code
X number of
base.
years. So I had a difficult time understanding the architecture. That's fine. The other one that you mentioned was a vaguely defined project. Well, I'm going to ask you, what exactly was that project? What you
It was basically I had to create. It was an API, right, to create virtual reality simulations.
okay?
Basically, they created like just one machine inside of the this Unity kind of game for virtual reality glass. But what they want me to do is to put in a client server architecture, so they can like upload assets, and then download into the VR headset with a new machine with a different color, and yeah, to be like run and in runtime, to be loaded at runtime, new assets, not hard coded. That basically was a project.
Okay.
And yeah, basically was it.
Okay, so in this case, I would revise my top level answer to be, I worked on a Unity project, that I had never worked with Unity before. So okay, yeah, I'd say I worked on a Unity project that required me to work with a legacy code base for an AR or VR program that would allow real time uploads of assets. I had to build a web client server architecture for that, and I had never worked with Unity before. I think that already scopes
Okay.
out a little bit. I mean, you can always refine that answer, right? But that already tells me a lot. One, you're working with Unity. Two, you're working with already something that exists. And what exactly exists? It's the VR program, right? So then all you're
Yeah, yeah.
working with is trying to glue that to the actual headset and make a real-time API, make that program accept assets in real time. Okay, I understand. So now
Yeah.
I understand you're working with real time data, and that's its own challenge, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and so the difficulty is like, well, twofold, right? One is the real, actually threefold. One is you never worked in Unity before. Two is the real time thing, and then three is the legacy code base. So I should be able to dive.
Basically, three. Yeah,
Yeah. So
three.
from my perspective as the interviewer, I should be able to dive into any single one of these 3 points. But I would like for you as to be able to clearly define these three things as your difficulties. Does that make sense?
Okay. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I think that this story, this internship, can be boiled down to the three difficulties. Because I'm honestly going to say that, like, even I'm going to guarantee you that if I go down to any single other question, I'm going to find at least one or two. I'm going to find at least two. Yeah. How many questions do you have here? Like 20 or something like that.
Oh, the last ones were more like technical, like to define a thread and process, to explain recursion for a 5 year old, you know,
Okay.
and
Yeah, do that.
like what?
Right.
Huh? Into so I can say what are my top two programming languages and to explain the difference and trade-offs between them.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's a good one actually. Anyway, so I'm gonna say like for the rest of the behavioral questions that you have, I bet you I can find at least two where that story works.
Yeah, I actually repeated. Like,
Uh-huh.
there was I'm not finding here. But yeah, like tell me about a time you stroke no with your colleagues. Your greatest accomplishment. I think was like, anyways. Tell me about a values and kind of environment that you thrive in. I'm not finding, but I'm totally sure.
Don't worry about it.
I think was that one. I think was that one actually. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Because I'm very certain it's gonna show up on its own. But anyway, I want you to. I want this story that you have with Carnegie Mellon to boil down to the fact that you're working with legacy code base, working on a language that you've never worked with before, and that you're dealing with a real-time API. And I want you to be able to talk about each of the technical difficulties of these in depth. So,
Okay.
let's start with that. So, technical difficulties of learning a new programming language on the fly. Go ahead, explain that to me.
Basically, the programming language was pretty similar what with I worked before that was Java, but like the concepts of the API I was working, no, actually the framework that was Unity was totally new because for everything I wanted it to do, I didn't know like how to do it, and at some points I was kind of reinventing the wheel, and but like the API had support to this, and I had to learn a lot of things. How they work so I can make a better use. In the end, I realized that what I was doing in the beginning was kind of like reinventing the wheel, as I said, but like I learned along the way how to make my life simple. And yeah,
How would you make your
basically
life
was this.
so then it would be like, okay, how would you make your life simpler in the future? How would you redo this endeavor?
I would redo this. It's basically try to find somebody or like try to find some resource to know like the basics, the 101 course about what I need to know about Unity, before like jump into like any project. Because if I knew like the very basics, I would be able to like save up a lot of time of like trying to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, basically this like try to learn from somebody that worked with this piece of technology or invest more time into learn the basics, the bare minimum, so I can go more faster like on my work.
Okay, let me refine that a little bit. Okay, well, let me ask first. Did you have anyone else there that knew how Unity worked?
I had like, yeah, I had one guy, that I had the opportunity to talk, but just like 1 month before after I was in the project, and they was like seeing that I was struggling, and I was okay. I had to spend too much time sometimes understanding how I can like do this faster. And this guy gave me a lot of nuances. What can I use? And a lot of the things he like kind of led me in the way of this project was basically a lot of things I struggled a lot. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say that. Okay, I see. So let's change. So keeping in line with those three difficulties, I want to say that let's massage that. So you learned that in this one along this access of trying to learn a new programming language, that
Uh,
you should learn to ask for help sooner, and that
okay.
and you learn that programming. Let me phrase this. That you learn that software engineering is much more than programming.
Yeah.
That it's about like it's actually about solving the problem, and not just writing code but solving the actual problem and solving it the best way you can. I think that's a good lesson to learn, actually.
Okay, it should be like to give a lot of how to pronounce the emphasis, right?
Yeah. Here's what I want to set the story up to be. So I want to set the story up to be like the difficulties, the three things that make that story interesting, which is the Unity part, which is I have never worked in Unity before, the real-time analysis, and the legacy code base. And I think that with Unity one, you can boil it down to learn to ask for help, because you are not just writing code. You're writing code to solve a problem. And it doesn't matter if it's like an original piece of code or not. It's okay to lean on other people in order to get the job done. I think that's a very good lesson to have. Let's talk about the second one, the real-time data, right? So, what's the challenges you faced on the real-time data?
Well, actually, the challenges were like how to find, actually, how the first main hard time I had was like how to connect Unity with a external server. So I didn't know like the libraries I had to use, and how the mapping of data worked in Unity and how to transfer assets in the best way. So I had a lot of hard time to learn this, but like I managed to learn and to consume data from my external server and load into Unity with like the behaviorals.
That sounds like a repeat of what you just said before, of like, oh, I don't know how to use Unity. It sounds like the exact same thing.
But what do you want me to put emphasis on this? Okay. Because I didn't know like actually the libraries to connect, with the server, and didn't know like how this load from a server into Unity. That was actually the struggle.
Okay, I see. So it was literally just use this API, glue it together, and then go. Was that the project?
Can you repeat?
So was the project more like use API A, use API B, and glue them together? Or was there more processing to do?
I had to process the JSON file from the API, right? And create like a new game, So basically create a new level of a game based on a JSON file.
Okay, that's serializing and deserializing in real time.
Yeah, that was the word. Yeah, that was the word.
You want to do that? Okay, so then I'd probably ask you, what are the issues with serializing and deserializing in real time that you had? Let me ask that.
I think that boils down in the same in the previous question, because like I didn't know like a lot of how to insert a lot of behaviors into the assets, right? How to load the assets efficiently, right? It took a lot of time for me to realize a more efficient way to load them. And yeah, I think that was basically this of my lack of understanding about Unity,
Okay, that's now this is the part where we can start getting technical. So now is what would you do? So if I was the interviewer, I'd literally just go, okay, what was the part that you were doing before? What was the part you're doing after? So let's say, what was your initial idea? What was wrong with it? And what is the better idea, and why is it better?
For the serializing part, you're saying over the whole project.
Yeah. This aspect.
Okay, for the serializing part, the basic thing, like, actually, I tried first to load the 3D assets, right? And then to load the behaviorals.
Sure.
So, I'm just trying to remember. Just give me 1 minute here.
Yep.
I didn't take a note of this. Let me remember. Yeah, okay, I remember. One of a very serious problem I had was like on the inside of the program, we had to define the axis, X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
And I was having a lot of hard time to like convert the axes that were on the JSON file to like the Unity API, because it kind of like differs, when the serialized happened.
Yep.
and I had to like research a lot to understand how different axes works in Unity.
Okay.
So I had to create like different methods to like kind of map, those coordinates, and also like not only the coordinates where the objects will be placed, but also the movements of the objects.
Okay.
So I had to work on like the angles, how to translate the angles was
Okay.
not so clear. So I spent a lot of time on this as well.
Okay. And so you spent a lot of time on it. What was the final result? How did you eventually solve the problem? Did you just use a third party library to do it, or like how'd that work?
I actually code the methods to convert, the angles and the coordinates by myself.
Uh-huh.
Just understanding the principles of how Unity works compared to the real world, because my base was from the real world. And I just applied this knowledge, and yeah, it just worked pretty fine. So if a person input like 180 degrees, I would convert this to Unity, because Unity didn't have like a converter for itself.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I know how to phrase story. So what you're gonna do is basically call this, hey, in order to transmit data from our server to Unity, it had to be serialized into a JSON and into XYZ coordinates and some motion and some angle coordinates as well, which are not native to Unity. I think this is the key part. Like the data that we had to send over the wire was not native to Unity, so we were responsible for serializing and deserializing between those coordinates and what Unity could actually do. And now this is where you start getting to technical stuff like what exactly the code did, like some mathematical transformations or whatever the heck it is, right?
Okay.
So I'll
Okay.
leave the technical details to you to be able to express this because like again, short in time. But I think this is the story. This is what you want to go with. You want to be able to say,
Okay.
hey, you want to be able to like paint that picture very clearly and very explicitly state what the technical details are in a way a 5-year-old can understand. Remember this like explain like I'm 5.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So it applies here as well.
Yeah. So 5-year-old can understand, hey, yeah, this data that you're sending is not understood by what's it called? Unity. You're putting it in a different format, and you say exactly what those formats are. Oh, we're translating it from XYZ coordinates and angles to to Unity objects or something like that.
Yeah, Unity objects. Yeah.
So you kind of see like, okay, and once it's like, okay, now I understand, and then you need to be able to do that fast. So in order to do it real time, that's the part, and of course I'm gonna leave that to you to do. And then
Okay.
part of the coordinate code base, fine.
There's actually just one more point that I think is like easier to explain. There was one problem that I struggle a lot with was to load the textures. So I had to like search from libraries to compress like the colors, so they can like take less time to load, and not using the loader from Unity. So that was like a very big problem I had. Was like almost in the end of the project, but was taking like almost 10 minutes to load one machine. In a real game, you cannot wait 10 minutes to load like a level of your game. And then I realized that games use like different converters, compression type of thing, and that was like a lot of learn as well.
I think
I
you
don't
can
know,
have a very
maybe.
interesting technical discussion if it required to, and I would encourage you to iron out your answers a little bit more. But I think that's going to be one aspect that you can drill into. Like, okay, you have to serialize and deserialize, and then you need to also use a loader in order to bring that data in. The problem is that it takes too long to initialize that loader, and for real games, this is not acceptable, especially when we're dealing with a real-time engine and real-time data.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you had to build your own loader from the ground up in order to be able to make this work, and then you realize other games were doing exactly the same thing. I think that's perfectly fine, because then you realize the lesson here is that it's okay. It again ties into the story of it's okay to reuse solutions that work. That software engineering is much more than programming. It just see how again this really teach this like all these different factors that are from different causes of what make the project difficult, all combined together to make this one lesson. I think that's the way you should structure this experience.
Good. I can get a lot of things from this experience as well. So basically, a very good one.
Yeah. Notice I say like how each one of these different factors they come from one single project. They're all very easy,
Yeah.
and you should be able to dive into them very deeply and make the concepts and ideas very easy for someone else to understand. And then you bring it all in to make one single moral and takeaway that someone can understand. So they'll remember. So even though you talk about like serialize and deserialize or whatever, the big lesson I think you want leave people in people's mind is that I understand that software engineering is much more than just programming.
I should say this, right?
I would
Like-
say as the moral of the story, it's like some of the difficulties. Like, why is that? Because some of the, when I tell stories, I always, if I find myself rambling, I will break and say, so why am I telling you this? The moral that I learned from, or I should say the lesson I learned from this project is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because if you find yourself...
Perceive this on your videos, yeah. You always like wrap up what you're saying like with the moral of the story, yeah.
Yes. And so they might not remember every single detail. They kind of remember some details, but then they'll at least remember that last thing you said, that moral. And like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
now I understand where you're going with this. And then-
Moral. Okay, that's a very important thing.
And
Yeah.
if the moral
Okay.
is very simple, then they'll make that instant connection.
Mhm.
And they'll say like, oh, well, how did you learn that from these different experiences? And I'll leave the last one up to you to figure out of that, which is the working with a convoluted code base. Accomplishments and failures, CMU. Is this the same story?
No, yeah, actually, I think was a very good, like the biggest accomplishment, right, to get this internship. That was pretty hard, and like the failure was like I was talking about the technical failure and like what I learned from this.
Okay.
Basically, I executed a update statement in SQL without a where, and like I just changed the recurrence credit card status from like 18,000 people, in a single command.
Okay.
That was in my first internship, actually.
Don't worry, we've all been there.
Okay,
I've had
so-
worse. So. Anyway.
Okay, I don't feel so bad anyway.
Dude, come on. I'll put it this way. I single-handedly introduced a bug that what's it called? At Apple, where someone made a server change, like a very innocuous one, and I broke the app for everybody in the world.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I made a hidden bug that broke the app for everybody in the world. So don't worry.
Everybody in the world. Okay, 18,000 people is nothing.
80,000 people is nothing
Okay.
when you're dealing with like a couple millions of people. Okay, like that's all you gotta say.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Anyways.
don't feel too
Oh,
bad.
just one thing. Do you think like I was thinking about after I heard this, anyways? Do you think the failure is like honest because it was like a very big failure? I was kind of worried to say this, but I was trying to. Okay, let's try to see what can I get out of this failure. Never ever execute something without double check in production. Or like ask for a peer to review or code review. Yeah.
I would say the biggest, like, I think this is a good story, but I would say the bigger lesson isn't like the technical, because there's always some random technical bullshit that'll get you. I think the better answer is to always ask for help and double check, because double check with someone else. Get a second pair of eyes on this, on anything you do, because there's no shame in it, because there is always something that you don't know, and what you don't know can kill you. In fact, I think you can use the quote I gave you, right? I want to know where I'm gonna die, so I never go there. Just use that quote. So I learned. So you can say the lesson I learned is the same quote Charlie Munger frequently gives, which is, I want to know where I'm gonna die, so I never go there. So in order for me to quote unquote prevent myself from going to where I'm gonna die, I should always ask for a second opinion from people from people who are more knowledgeable. I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's a wonderful one, because again, it's like it shows that you're you're humble, you're willing to learn, and you're willing to accept that the limitations of human knowledge. Well,
Because of this, I asked for your help. I can understand my limits.
Yeah, understand that you're not gonna ever know everything. It's like you say, I'm never gonna know everything, and there's always gonna be blind spots. I think especially the blind spots one. So yeah, feel free to plagiarize that quote. Like, I want to know where I'm gonna die, so I never go there.
Okay. I'll count.
Yeah.
This.
I mean, that's kind of. I feel like I've given that quote so many times, you kind of memorized it, or at least I hope you did.
I wrote this basically most of the notes, I actually write them by hand. I'm gonna send you a picture and put them on the side of my monitor, so my wall here behind my monitor is like full of those. cover your ass, like all that stuff. Anyways,
Hey, I mean, they're good. They're good lessons to have in engineering as well. How much
For
time do you
sure.
have left? I know it's a little bit late, but I kind of want to do at least like one more story like this.
no, it's okay for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Struggle with one of your colleagues. I think this is a good one. Which thing was? I feel like you can pick your internship experiences to cover this one.
No, I never struggled like with a colleague at one of my internships. Just at college because people were like without when there's no commitment, Like I have a lot of examples actually. That was one of them now.
Here's the thing. I feel like for like a lot of the internships, there's always going to be something. Like it's not, like when I say struggle, it's not like disagreements. It could be like a lack of understanding or an inability or difficulty communicating. You know.
But man, I have the serious ones at college. I don't know. It's okay if I use this because like was the worst ones, People were not willing to collaborate and like lying, that is even worse.
We don't want that. The reason why we don't want to like create a story where you end up being like the hero. Very often stories don't end up like that. Very often it's always going to be like a little bit of gray. And if you say,
I know. Yeah.
the reason why
Go ahead.
is like even though it might be true, it's the thing is that if you make the people end up being too much like a villain, you start questioning, whether or not you are the problem. Because chances are, if everyone if in the common thing in your stories is that everyone's a villain, then chances are like the problem is you because you're the common factor, right? So I'd rather you pick something that's a little bit more mild, one where you struggle like on and off on like some more understandable differences. Not one out from character, but one from where you both come from good intentions. I always think that's the better ones.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
The reason why is
Yeah,
if
because
you're like, oh, I still run into struggle with like people who don't give a shit. Like, believe me, there's my fair share of situations where I struggle with people who don't give a shit. And I hate that. I fucking hate that. But I would never use that as an example, only because it's just like it's too extreme.
Okay, you don't want to go to extremes. Okay.
No, I want a story with nuance because it's more interesting, and there's always
Okay,
lessons to learn.
Can I just ask one here
Yes.
because I think it's good. It's actually is again from college. It's okay.
Okay. If it's a better story than one where he's like, oh my god, you're fucking
No,
bullshit.
it's not too extreme. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm going to try to explain.
Uh-huh.
So short version of it. Okay. Yeah, actually, there was one time when I had to do a project, and one of my group's member, he was like very smart.
Yes.
And we were like discussing how we're gonna tackle this project. Was a project to create a music type of software to
Yes.
create music.
Okay.
He had a lot of knowledge in music,
Uh-huh.
but like half of knowledge in software.
Yes.
And I was trying to show ideas how to tackle this project, how we can architecture and solve the project. But he was not agreeing because he was trying to go much more complex. And I tell him, man, this is like a semester project. It's not like a project for years, yeah, that was basically this. And we have kind of a hard time to agree into a solution that was complete enough for him, but not like complete enough for him, but not so simplistic as the way I wanted. So we had to like put a lot of trade-offs. It was a very good discussion because I was not agreeing like in the beginning, but we had a lot of conversations and we ended up in points that were in common between us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure there's no other time during your internships where you struggle to work with one of your colleagues?
Let me think. I think I had lucky, maybe. Yeah. Caramba. Man, actually. Okay, being overloaded, do you think is a struggle? Because like a lot of people from different areas asking for different things.
I would say, is there one colleague that you can point out that was giving you too much work?
Actually. Okay, there's one experience in an internship. Okay. I actually had, I guess, 4 months of experience in this company as an intern, you know? And I had to taught taught as a new intern how to do basically the same things as I was doing because I will go to a new kind of working a new part of the system.
Yes.
And he was kind of like not so interested. So I kind of had to repeat myself over and over again and kind of had to like give like a lot of frameworks, not frameworks, but lists. Okay, you should to do A and B when something happened, you know, and like to create a lot of like those kind of documents so he can understand. While when I got the like same the same task to handle, I like just created this by myself, and even him like all prepared, he was not giving a shit about like what I was trying to teach, and yeah, it was much slow. I don't know, and that was a point where I got just a little bit mad because I was seeing that he didn't care, you know, too much about this internship, and yeah.
I see.
Anyways, he was not so committed as I was.
Okay. I'm gonna.
Okay, I'm just.
I'm gonna say that's
I-
a little bit bad one because you say he doesn't give a shit. Let's tone it down a little bit. Let's say he was focused on different areas of the internship because he wanted to learn about different parts of the tech stack.
Okay, yeah. He actually didn't have focus. Yeah. So while I was trying to answer, like, teach him something, he was like, okay, let's just answer this message on WhatsApp, you know. Was kind of change of behaviors when managers were in the office and when managers were out.
Oh.
So and I didn't like this, you know, at all.
I don't want to point like I really hate stories where we have to keep painting the other guy as the bad guy, and that definitely sounds like painting the other guy as the bad guy. I would say
Okay,
he had different priorities, because of his because of
priorities.
managers or projects or something like that, right?
Different priorities. That is the word. Okay.
Okay. So let's put this. So let me think. How do we want to do that?
I was trying to teach him, and he was with different priorities, and I was not knowing what to do, and I kind of struggled with this colleague. I don't know.
Okay. It's hard to say. Let me think. Shit. I have no fucking.
Oh, okay. Man, just one point here. I forget, but I have struggled with colleague. Before tech, right? I worked in different jobs, like, and I had one colleague of mine, you know, that he was like assigned to. I work at, you know, I don't know if you know CNC machines, laser cutting machines. You know, I operate machines, laser cutting machines for wood, wood, plywood, you know. And yeah, there was one time when I don't know, because it's not related to
I'd rather
tech.
keep this software unless this is.
Yeah, I was trying to keep this in software because that was one time where I really struggled because he was giving me a lot of load, and I was kind of overwhelmed. and
Let's go back to the
didn't know where
internship. Let's go back to the intern one because I think that there's a little bit we can. Is there like a positive end result from that story that we can latch on?
Yeah. Okay, no, I just put in the table just to see your point of view. Okay.
Okay, let's see. Video explain the code, write documentation. Cooperation. Okay, let me read this. That he has some personal problem having a hard time trying to cooperate in the future, but he did is that not to get mad. And then he agreed to show his struggle and showed his struggle and wrote in the end. He wrote a what? It kind of got cut off.
He wrote. Where?
Oh wait, hold up. It's.
Okay. He wrote in the end. I mean, like, he managed to finish the documentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead, you could say, at the beginning, he was very lost with the new technologies, and he didn't know where to focus. And so what I did was give him something a little bit simpler for him to work on, which the documentation, and explained how the code how the code worked in order to support the documentation, and he agreed. You know, it's along those lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's not so extreme.
Exactly, because then you say, hey, well, he was struggling. He did like when I tried to help him, it didn't work because he was spreading his attention on 10 other different things, and he got lost. And so I helped him focus his time and energy on something I knew he could do, which was the documentation of the code. And I helped, and in order to further enrich his experience and his ability to work on it, I assigned him documentation and showed him and explained how this worked. I think that's a much better one because then you could say that what you learned is that everyone has different degrees of abilities, and and you could say like because he came into the internship later than you, he was not as capable as you, which is natural because he didn't have. Well, I should say as capable, but he wasn't able to execute on the same level that you were just yet. So you learn to, in order to work with people, you need to give them things that fit their ability.
I need to get out, like to get some lesson, right?
So the lesson is that if you are working with people, make sure that they are working on things that they can do, not just their own, not just assignments.
Okay, and not what I think that they can do, right? What they really can do.
Yes, I think that's a much better one because everyone has different abilities and different capabilities of what they're capable of doing, but they might not be able to do it today. They can do it tomorrow, day after tomorrow, maybe something. If once they learn more. But I think the most important thing here is to be able to recognize that, that he is not ready yet, but I can help him get there.
Okay, we totally changed the focus. I mean, like, of me trying to be the hero, as you mentioned, to me trying to help him. More emphasis on that. Exactly. That was pretty good, actually. Thanks for that.
Yeah, of course, that's what I'm here for. And so, now you can say, now you learn how to have some people management, right? It's not enough that you just give them an assignment and then tell them to figure it out and do it. It's that you need to give assignments on their level and what they're capable of. You need to set them up for success. It's important to set other people up for success. I think that's the best way to phrase it.
Good.
All right, excellent.
Okay.
Next, we can. And is that which internship is that part of?
That was from the first one,
okay.
Like the e-commerce one.
E-commerce one. Okay, perfect. We can do that. So let's tie it to e-commerce one is learning to like you are passionate about the data analytics stuff, but then some other people are not as capable of doing that and making that translation in their head. So instead, you give them you're responsible for giving and triaging the different assignments and projects. I think that's fine. Because lessons learned in life. He's going to. The thing with this one is that they're going to ask you to tie it to an experience that you have.
Okay, so that was an internship. So that was the experience.
And it's like some big lesson you learn in life. It's that it's not just the lessons that you learned from working with people, but in general. I still think the one cut where you go, I don't want to go where I'm gonna die. I think that's a good lesson.
No. I try to to tie those things I learned in life, based on my past experience.
Yes.
Because I worked since I was 14 years old, so I learned a lot of things how to do work, and what not to do. So basically, I was trying to leverage this fact, to put things I learned. Yeah. To be dependable, being focused, and being relentless. Yeah.
Sure, but then we're gonna say, okay, the next logical question is like, okay, tell me a time when you've done this, when you've applied these lessons in your
For sure.
career. So that's what I mean. Like, it's gonna be okay. Show me that you actually have learned this.
Okay. And this go more for the software experiences, right?
It's very helpful if it ties into software. It could be other things, but I would say in order to sell the idea that you're a professional engineer, it's going to be this. And then they might follow it up with, okay, well, that's your career. Have you done this outside of your career as well? So for every single lesson that you say here, you should probably come up with tie it to one of your experiences and one of your professional experiences. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think more a lot of these values I can relate to the experience at CMU because I was outside of my country, away from family, and and that was points I thought about to give up. So I think really aligns with values as well.
Okay. So I do want to say that we talked about the CMU one, but we haven't talked about the business analytics one or the e-commerce one because that's kind of that's what you're trying to sell me on though. That's the thing. Remember in the intro we're oh yeah, you're an e-commerce guy. So I want to pick that apart. I want you to tell me what was notable about the e-commerce one.
Okay, so there was a time where, like, was in the investing company, right?
Yep.
Like we're trying to analyze two products, no, actually the same product, but we did like a A/B test, right?
Uh-huh.
And like my manager told me so I can align with people that worked with customer calls,
Okay.
and I can analyze if the product had people bought more products based on the call, on that call after bought a
Yep.
product or not.
Okay.
And actually, I was responsible to like create like how the test is gonna happen,
Okay.
was going to happen, and to analyze the results and give the outputs. So from the beginning until the end to present the results, I was like I coordinate this operation, and in the end we managed to see that was an increase of 13% in like people that bought new products after a call, after receiving a call. And yeah, that was it. I was able to leverage results from analysis from the beginning to end.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
in a
see.
structure how the analysis worked.
Okay, your story is kind of convoluted. Let me simplify it for you. So you wanted to see if doing cold calls for customers would increase their
Cold
purchases.
calls. Okay.
You want to call customers up and then try to sell them. You analyze data and realize, hey, wait a minute, we actually get more people buying if we
Yeah.
cold call them. And so you created a what's called a initiative to try and get the salespeople and whoever, like CEO or whatever, to increase the number of cold calls, increase to change their efforts. And as a result, but in order, and you sold this initiative, right? And they accepted, and so because of that, they were able to sell 13% more products. Or
Yeah.
the number of goods sold increased by 13%, or however you want to do it, like revenue or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a good example. Can you give me another one? Like, what's the overarching theme of this e-commerce experience?
Um, actually, that was the investing company, right? You asked like,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry, the business analyst. Okay, is there any other? What's the overarching theme of this one? Of this business analyst experience?
Okay, I just don't understand this question.
Like, remember what I said before? The the we want to leave the person with some memorable moral about this
Okay.
experience, right?
Uh-huh.
So my question to you is, what is that moral here?
Moral was that I like learn how to generate values with different tools that they had, and to make analysis so they can make better decisions. So yeah,
No,
the main thing
that's so
I could
general.
extract from
That's too general. So I want you to do it.
yeah,
Let me like
from the beginning.
yeah, from the beginning.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the most important thing I got out of the experience into this finance company, actually this investing analysis company, was to like how to understand real world finance data, and like selling data, and bring results and bring like analysis that we can make better products in the future. So that was basically my highlight from this experience.
Okay, that means that you're gonna need like two or three different examples. So the first one is, yeah, you created a selling campaign from the data. That's fine.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
Is there another project that you did?
I actually like I helped the data scientists. No, actually, let me just remember one more project here. There was like a lot of things going on.
Okay, give me the one that you felt the most proud of.
I think that was the most one because I took from the beginning to the end. The ones I was just helping.
Okay. Give me the second most proud.
Okay. I think that was not. Let me think. Okay, that was one project that I participated. That my role was to like clean the not clean the data, like to clean the data that we had from different sources, right? From the apps, from the Android and from the iOS app and from the website, so that the data scientists could like understand more the profiles of our clients.
Sure.
So we can like send more personalized notifications from them. And I was part of the team that cleaned the data so that we can.
80% of your time is gonna be sanitizing data. That's fine. Is there any other projects? Because that sounds very boring.
Yeah, that was boring actually.
Yeah, give me something interesting. Something that you remember. This narrative is that you can take real world business ideas and data and translate them into actual initiatives. So the one where you said increase our selling campaign by doing cold calls because you looked at data. That's great. I want another one similar to that, or or maybe a different campaign or something like that.
And it was like a 3 month internship. 1.5 months I was learning the tech stack and helping like small things, and half of the other month, like one other month was basically create this other one project. I don't have like much more interesting things.
Okay.
I was like they was kind of selecting me to another project, but that was when the time I left the company to go to this CMU internship. Yeah, basically that was it. But I know the project, but I didn't.
What is the other project? Let me ask that.
The other project was to create like a more efficient recommendation system from their website and app.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Why? Tell me about that then.
So basically, there was like using the past thing of like try to analyze people's behaviors, so they can like just like YouTube algorithm, but like in their version. So basically, they was trying to put me into this project. Yeah, I participated in the first.
So you're basically talking about making a recommendation engine.
Yeah, that was basically this. So they was trying to put me into this project.
Okay, and so what was your role? What did you do? Let me ask that. Like, I guess that's the best way.
Basically, clean the data, and help on like the general analysis. Basically, that was what I understanding that I would do. Yeah.
So you're gonna be sanitizing data for the. Oh wow. The.
That was not so interesting as well,
that's
but
really
like the
not
outcome.
interesting. Shit.
No, yeah, actually, this experience I learned a ton of SQL and those like graphs, like to show up data, but it's not my cup of tea because I really enjoy more.
Yeah, I was gonna say like for an internship and then they make you scrub data. I'm just like, oh god, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Because honestly, I would have liked a little bit more, but if we can't force it, then that's fine. I like the selling campaign one. I think that's very good. And you spent a lot of time analyzing SQL and sifting through data.
Man, let me just point out one thing. Like in the last Amazon interview I had, right, on the behavior portion, they kind of dig a lot of this question. You have no idea. They ask like 5 follow-up questions.
Yep.
Okay, what was the project? What was the metrics? Man, was something I never like. Some terms, they killed me in this interview because of this.
Oh.
There was no coding portion in the entire interview.
Yeah.
That was like one first round just to get to know myself better, and the second round was this one because like was a APM kind of role, technical project manager.
I mean, I'm kind of doing the same thing. To be fair, I'm like really trying to make sure that you know your shit, and that's basically what they're doing here.
Yeah, and there was one point I was not knowing how to explain because I was kind of based myself in like what people. Anyways, it was very hard this interview.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. Like, you want to dig down into a point where it's just like, hey, yeah, okay, this is like what I want you to walk away with. This is what I want you to remember about like what I'm saying here. And that's like what I mean. Like, it's not just like, oh, here's our 5 experiences. It's like, what's the point? What's the moral? Can you tell me about all the different angles that you explored? Can you talk to me about like all the different like things that you did? And
because of this, I didn't put this as one of like good experiences.
Okay.
Like I just put this one of CMU because I know to explain basically all the things I did.
Okay.
The other one was kind of I delivered the project and the analysis, right?
Uh-huh.
but was not so meaningful to me. So, anyways,
Okay. Either way,
mean,
I think that
yeah.
you should be ready for those questions. And again, like if we had more time, I would have coached you on it. But overall, I want you to get down. I want you to keep drilling into these projects up down to a point where you can say, "This is what makes me special." If it's that, that's really the end point we want to get to. But I guess for now, we'll deal with this. And then let's go to the last one. While we still have time. The backend system. What did you do during there, and why is it special?
Which question is this?
First one. You said in the first one, I worked mainly with backend systems based in Java and Spring Framework. Was your role during this internship, and why does it matter?
Okay, so basically we had like internal system, right? So people can track their their how to say, I forget the words. Their so people can track what they bought, you know. And we had like another system that runs in Java. So people so the systems from the warehouse can be aligned with this internal system.
Okay.
And one of the biggest like things I did in this internship was like to create a button so people can track like the status from the company, if they were like delivered to the person.
Okay.
So basically, I had to analyze like the flow of the data and ended up creating this button. Was basically this. I actually make use of few things that were previously built that was kind of similar. But I mainly glued all of this together and make this work.
Okay, so you leverage existing infrastructure in order to be able to track when a package got delivered. Is that right?
Package, that was the word. I forget. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Sure. Was this a project that you were given, or was this a project that you figured out on your own?
No, they gave to me because like a lot of persons was asking this, you know, and they just gave me.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe you can solve this. Yeah.
Let me
And there's another one, but it's not so interesting. I
What's
just
the
create another functionality to like people can fix things that were not so like informations that was not clear, and it ended up reducing our because we have a lot of calls
Okay.
from this type of task, and me creating this type of button reduced like down this to like from 10 maybe to 2, you know, because we're much more specific.
Okay.
So that was like a good one as well because
Is that the same one, or is that a new one?
that's another like so people can edit information.
So you're saying that you worked on a project that reduced the number of calls that you're receiving, but it doesn't sound any different than the other one because you're talking about a button.
Yeah, basically it was a button that people can click and edit like a form. Yeah.
Oh, like
And update yeah, it was kind of simple, but it reduced a lot of overhead that we were having, solving these minor things, you know.
So the first one is you built a tracking feature for track packages. The second one was to submit customer complaints.
No, to edit customer information, basically was this. Because there was some information that were not displayed to be added.
Got it.
And yeah, basically that was it.
Okay, yeah, but that's basically what your two features are. That's the way you should be talking about it. So it's like a little concerning that you can't reduce it to that 30-second pitch that I mentioned before. Okay, so you built a feature that tracks packages. Okay, what are the technical difficulties of each one of these?
For the first one, I think the code base, you know, was pretty convoluted again, and it was like my first internship, and there was like some data structure that I never saw before.
Okay.
And that took me a lot of time, you know, to understand this again. And in this work environment was totally different for me because I never worked at tech in this moment.
Sure.
And yeah, basically was this together the points of the software I needed to like do something and to gather some information and display this in a very simple way.
Okay, I'm gonna
basically.
say that I was like, okay, well, it's almost the same lesson as from the CMU one, right? Um,
Basically, yeah.
but then the next question an interviewer would ask, what lesson did you learn from working on the old code base in your first internship that you applied to the CMU one? Let me ask that.
Okay. Yeah. Like I tried to. Basically, the context was kind of different because at CMU, I kind of have more experience like uh, uh, navigating to old code base, to convoluted code base.
Mm-hmm.
But in the terms of learn a new technology, I never like experienced this in the way so intense as I learned at CMU,
Okay.
as I experienced at CMU. So that was kind of different. But in terms of understand others people code, basically the first internship helped me a lot to reduce the time to understand others people code at CMU internship. So basically, I think that was the main key takeaway I take from
Okay.
this.
So you say it reduce the amount of time that it takes for you to learn a new code base. What were the
Yeah.
new tools? What were the new ways of thinking that you learned? Let me ask that. Like, because it's one thing to say, oh, it reduced the amount of time, but then my question is,
Uh,
well, what about it?
okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. One thing that I get out of from the first experience I applied in the second was like have a broader view. So okay, understand the functions, but understand them in a general scope
Okay.
of like how they are working in the system. At the first internship, I didn't have this knowledge because I was kind of random navigating into the system, clicking the functions,
Yes.
but kind of losing my thought where I was in the system. While at CMU1, I tried to like create my own architecture of the system and understand like what each role of each part. So it was kind of more for me to glue the picture of the whole system
Ah, okay.
and make much more easier than in the previous experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I understand. So you can say the lesson you learn is that every piece of code is written for a reason and it exists there for a reason, and that it's much more helpful to
This
see the
for
entire architecture and why things are the way they are in order to try and understand the code base. I think that's a good lesson.
okay.
So the thing is that again, you need to be able to reduce these
Yeah.
explanations and ideas down to a very simple bite-sized piece that someone can understand without rambling. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I see the problem with the behavior
Yeah.
interview. Of course, like it's a little bit late. Hopefully, you took notes on everything I said, and hopefully you
Yeah.
can incorporate them. But if you like cannot execute on anything, the only thing I would ask you to do is make sure your first 30 seconds when they ask you tell me about yourself are clean and that you remember the moral of every single one of these experiences.
Show the value. Yeah.
Yes. Again, you want to bring
Okay.
at the end of the question, you always want to bring it back to the moral of
Oh.
what you learned and why it answers the question. And so anything else is going to be like it's going to be exactly the same thing. Time when you took a risk and failed. All you have to do is just massage one of the stories and and apply it to that question, and then literally say, what did I learn from this? Like, okay, this is I learned to like even this one. Like, let's say you were asked a time when you took a risk and failed. It's like, hey, I tried learning the entire code base, and I just kept learning it piece by piece. But then I delayed a lot of my work the first time around. But then, and the risk I learned was trying to bite off more than a chew. But I learned that it's much more helpful to look at to understand that code's written for a reason and why things are the way they are, blah blah blah, and then you apply that to your CMU internship. So not only do you answer the question of why you took a risk and failed, but then you also show that you learned from it and applied it to the next thing.
Mm.
And then you also and you see how that ties into the narrative of like, oh yeah, software engineering is more than just writing code. It's about solving a problem, and then this another story and moral that adds to that narrative.
Oh,
You, you
I
see
see. I
like you
see.
see like if you can align the right stories the right way, they just create this one massive narrative that allows the person to remember you.
Understand like yeah, for every question he's following like yeah the same narrative. Yeah, like I'm getting. I see. I understand your message.
And exactly as long as you keep hammering that in and like each piece like and each story doesn't have to have the exact same moral. In fact, like even when we talked about all this, they're all very different, right? But the
Yeah.
point is that they all point in the same direction, and then that one direction you've already made very explicitly clear one time. So as long as you kind of keep pointing that direction, they're gonna remember that. So
I see.
yeah. Anyway, so it's like probably like 2:30 a.m. your time. I want to give you enough time to sleep so that way you are
Almost
fresh
there.
already. So yeah. So is there any other questions you got? Because I think we can call it here because I want you to go to bed.
No. I can take a Red Bull tomorrow.
No. I don't want you to take the Red Bull. I want you to be relaxed. I want you to be calm. I want you to not talk a million miles a minute because that's actually what I think kills you a lot of the time, where you just run on and keep talk. I want you to be focused, calm, and think objectively. Like everything that we talked about for problem solving. I want you to make things very easy to understand.
Okay.
So,
No, but one thing here, I noticed, like, of you explaining, right?
yes.
For example, I see that you basically can, it's just the 5-year-old thing. You can explain, like, in 10 words, you know?
Yep.
So maybe try to be a member of the same mindset, like, try to, yeah, take my time to answer those questions in 40 seconds or like no more than a minute, and yeah, have a version for 1 minute for each one of those, following the same narrative, you know.
I'm going to tell you, it's not about the time. It's about focusing. I want to hit these points in my answers. And sometimes I am actually cognizant of it. I'm conscious of it. Other times I'm not. But the point is, whenever I'm talking, even right now, there's one or two things I want to hit. And everything else is set up to be able to hit those points.
I see.
That's it. So even what I just said, it's like I'm trying to explain to you the misconception that you have, and then what I focus on. In this case, the misconception that you have is focusing on the time, and I'm telling you, no, just focus on the points you want to address. And once
Much
you
more
do that,
clear,
it
yeah.
becomes a whole lot easier.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm constantly doing this. Like whenever someone wants me to give a response, I'm thinking of the 2 points. At most 2. I know people can do like 5. But I'm not that smart. I can only do like 2 points. And usually it's almost always boils down to what is the misconception this person has, how can I correct, and what do I want to correct? And then, hey, not only is this wrong, focus on this point I'm about to give you.
I see.
It's a very powerful trick. Just say, hey, this is why you're wrong. Here is the direction I want you to look at. And again, like there's a lot of people who are really smart that can do this much better. But this is just for me. This works for me, and I think it works for a lot of other people because of how simple it is. But it's very difficult to execute on if you're not used to doing this.
Yeah, and especially, I'm not using this as an excuse, but especially if English not my first. Yeah. Anyways, my first
It's
language.
okay. Just be calm and keep it simple. And address and make sure that you can answer the question. If you need to, take like a 5-second breathe, like breathe in through the nose for like 3-4 seconds, and then breathe out through the mouth for like 3 seconds. It's like if they answer, they ask the question, you can just like pretend you're breathing, like that, because it's just,
Yeah.
wait for my answer. Maybe they're thinking, maybe you're thinking, maybe you're not, But the point is that if they answer the question or they finish their question during a moment when you're breathing, are they going to like ding you for that? No. It's like the dude's breathing. You don't have to answer right away. You can give like a 2
Yeah.
pause, like I just did.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Does that make my answer any worse or better in your eyes?
No, it's okay.
There you go. Just take a 2-3 second breath. At least before you answer the question.
I'm doing this right now.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you like a small window to think, like, oh, I want to focus on this and this, or at least focus
Good.
on one thing,
Yeah. Okay. Man, this is actually something I struggle sometimes before sleep because my mind is kind of 100 miles per hour, to decrease this velocity sometimes. And I try this breathing exercises as well. It's very good.
It's not just breathing. It's being able to focus your mind on one point and one point only. Again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm just the simplest guy.
Great.
So, anyway, I'm going to let you go, get some sleep, and good luck tomorrow, man.
Thanks, man. That's it.
All right.
Bye.
All right. right, good luck. Bye bye. Okay, cool. So let's see what you guys said here. Increase the mic. Okay, I fixed that. We love you, Edward. Hey, love you too. Pre-processed? Yeah, like it's data scrubbing and data analytics. Anyway, does anyone have any other questions about like kind of what we just did? I know we focused a lot more on the behavioral interview, but to be like I was hoping to have like another week. Unfortunately, we got like delayed, and it was kind of hard to really impart a lot of the things I wanted to in previous weeks on him. And so it just ended up, getting us delayed, and we had that whole hiccup with Facebook. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So hopefully this works out with Microsoft. Seems like he can make it. I want to say that the odds of us landing this is 70%. Yeah, I'm hoping. I didn't get a chance to check his mistakes on the coding interview and LeetCode style stuff, and with this behavioral question could have done a little bit more work. But based on the feedback that he said and he's done, I think we have about like 65-70% chance. So let's see how that goes. Oh man, I'm kind of stressed. Fuck. Robert says, heard back from my Facebook and Google onsite. Got offers for both of them. Used the Google Doc to prepare. Thank you for that. Hey man, no problem. Glad you got a lot of benefit from it, and I'm happy to hear about that. How do new interns answer these questions? Honestly, a lot of the times, new interns give us answers, or in this case, new grads in general, give us answers that we think we want to hear. And most of them are geared towards the soft side of things, like the general soft answers that you might hear plenty of YouTubers talk about. Not going to name any names, but they tend to give out generic advice like, oh, make sure you're a team player. Make sure that you don't come across as an asshole. Make sure you learn how to collaborate and that you can talk about your projects. But the problem with that is that we've seen so many people basically talk about their projects. Everyone as an intern and new grad is doing pretty similar projects. Like even here right now, I did a little bit of data analytics and business analysis and ran a few queries and realized that we can increase our revenues by doing cold calls. That's a very typical L3 engineering project. I don't care very much about that. I care more about what is special about this. If it's something that you decided was interesting and that you could reason about and that you drove to completion on your own accord, that's going to be a lot more interesting because, this guy can read business data and has an active interest in creating his own projects and in driving initiatives rather than just being given something that he is from like some manager. And so this is the part where I think most people really miss. The question is not just can you work in a professional environment, but also what makes you special and why are you worth the hire versus all the 10,000 other L3 engineers that we got going. And one of the biggest tricks that I learned to do this is just literally look at the engineering competencies of whatever company you're that you're applying to. And in general, the Square engineering ladder I think does a very good job. So if I bring that up, and I've kind of told people to do this, is that when you're coming up with like behavioral answers like this, just look at the career ladder and expectations. So at the L3 level, write tests, document code, debugs, participate in software design, features and bug fixes, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you're hitting all these with your projects. And here's the secret sauce. Sprinkle in a little bit from the next higher level. So for instance, if I'm applying for an L3 position, I'm going to make sure my projects cover all this shit and have a little bit here of like, design, develops, ships, and maintains features with some guidance. I'm going to make sure I sprinkle that in. I'm going to make sure I sprinkle in that I'm responsible for the entire lifecycle of the code. I'm going to sprinkle in that maybe the code is concise and understood by others, that there might be a little bit of refactoring involved. Maybe there's a little bit of go back and forth on the design. I'm going to make sure that I do all this. Or not all this, but at least have some of this in here alongside making sure I hit all these. That's the secret sauce. Make sure you stand out. Anyway, I don't have much experience to make up these kind of stories. All right, yeah, sometimes you don't have the experience. Sometimes you don't have like the real world production stuff. In which case, go and get it. That's all I can say, man. Like, if you're applying for a new grad position, make sure you have some experience in the real world to back it up. So, I guess that's it. I guess there's no other questions. Yeah. I guess we'll. Yeah, I guess I'll stop the stream for now. Thank you all for joining me. We will have a stream on Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully, we get to hear back from him about his Microsoft experience, and then maybe we can start preparing him for other interviews as well. So hopefully, you guys all join me for that. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Hopefully, guys, you all learned something. Please join the Discord and follow me on my socials. Links are in the description down below. So hopefully, you guys join me for them. And thank you all for joining me. Have a good night.